there's a chance, but when your woman rings you later on and she'll be like, Ryan, I couldn't get through. You turned your phone off.
Yeah.
Broke up. That's it. You've got to prioritise in life, Ryan. That's all I can say. Prioritise. Okay, let's do this thing, mother.
I should have named my cat Bowen.
You don't mind a cat, right? I'll tell you. Yes, you should actually. You should have called it Bowen. That would have been ace. It's quality, that cat. And we got a lot of response to the cattail hard-on element. You did. We got a lot of and if people like are genuinely concerned, they were like, "That better be a cat's tail."
Does the carpet match the drapes?
Yeah. Otherwise, you get down to the hospital because that is not COVID, son. You ain't good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. We're going to turn professional. Like a switch, we become professional. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Fix. Mother Fluffers, Neil Pickup here in the house, and as always, I'm joined for episode 34 by our 4 resident hosts. First, stretching the Lethal Arms apparel top to its fabric limits, ladies. It's Paul Linn. There he is, live and direct, and even smells good. Ladies and gentlemen, coming live and direct from Latvia, he looks 11 years old, but he's actually in his late 20s. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Raimonds, Liepins, and the cat. More about the cat in just a few minutes. And the man who is chasing the title of the strongest ginger arm wrestler of all time. It's Ryan Blue Bowen.
There we go.
Got an extreme close-up. Now, we're going to move forward with this show because Ryan's only got 28% batteries. You've had a quite exciting day, Ryan, after nearly dying before our last episode.
I don't know what's going on. Cameras, audio, everything's not working for me right now, so I'm under the pump.
You've got colour in your cheeks again now, though. You look like you're not.
I do feel better again. Much better now.
I'm kind of upset about that because, not going to lie, you die on this show, ratings.
I do agree with that, yeah.
We don't want you to die, though.
Did you saw that little short comedy video? I think it was posted Armwrestling training or discussion. I don't know who made it. I laughed so hard.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Brilliant. Devin shared it the other day as well.
Yeah.
One of the best skits I've ever seen.
Yeah, amazing.
Who
I was like,
who's in it?
I don't know.
I didn't recognize the 2 pullers either. I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up. Maybe I'll find it.
Yeah,
Put it in the link. Yeah.
Link it.
It was just like. Did you saw it, Paul? I think it was Armwrestling training. So.
I'm not sure. I'm going to look for it right now.
It perfectly highlighted every idiosyncrasy of the sport. Every single one.
Yeah. We need this crap. I have to go.
Yeah.
Just
I'm not even going to try to recreate it because I'll do it no justice at all. It's really good. It's really
I'm like, this looks like Hollywood quality. Like legit actors. Like legit, you know.
Oh, no, I got it right here.
Yeah.
Turn that down.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Put it send it in our chat. Yeah.
I'll send it.
Yeah, we'll post it in the description. Yeah, Neil, could you do that?
I'm on it. It's in the description, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we roll. Now then, moving forward with those of you who watched episode 33 will know that towards the end of that episode, Raimonds Liepins was a little bit quiet. Fell out of the conversation. At one point, even yawned. Yes. Why? Because Ray was distracted by his one true love in life. The pussy. Yes. It was all over him, as has so often been the case. And it led me back to a question that came in. And I'm going to read this out now. This is from Sam. Sam, Neil, you've let me down. You didn't finish the cat story. You said you would do the cat story. Sam, I don't like to disappoint people. We're going to do it. Settles yourself down. So I'll tell Paul about this because Paul won't. This is real live and direct right now. The cat story. So wind the clock back a few years, right, Paul? Okay. And, Ryan, you've heard a bit of this, Ray, you've heard a bit of this, but we'll go back. A few years ago, I attend a Christmas party, family party. It's a house party, right? A mate of mine's place. And we're in the kitchen. And there's probably 8 or 9 guys in the kitchen. And in through the cat flap comes this little cat. This cat's called Dave. Okay? Dave comes in, jumps up onto and he's very welcome in the house, this Dave, and he's got like his utilities, his washing machines all there, and Dave jumps up onto the washing machine and he goes over to my mate Melvin's beer. And Melvin's got his beer there and Dave comes up and has a little look at it. It's got a head on the beer, so he must have thought, it's cream or something. So little Dave goes in there and has a little taste of this beer. Little tongue starts going in and out of the beer. And he seems to be quite keen on this beer. Goes back in. Another good crack at this beer. Goes back in. Has like 3 good goes at this beer. And Melvin's like, lads, whoa, look at Dave. And Dave's getting smashed up on Christmas Eve. So Melvin has had a few tiddlywinks. And he thinks to himself, where can this go? So many places. He reaches down and he gets over Dave's bowl. And he brings it up on the top there with his little name on it, Dave. And he thinks, right. Looks around. Gets a bit of vodka. Pours a bit of vodka into Dave's little bowl. Dave turns away from the beer. Looks at his bowl. Goes over. He's straight onto the vodka. A few sips of vodka. No problem for Dave. Melvin's like, this is going to be a big night, Dave. He's over, picks up the bloody gin. Bang. Into Dave's bowl. Dave, straight onto the gin, has a bit of a go at the gin. No problem for Dave. Melvin empties that. He's like, rum into Dave's bowl. Next, brandy into Dave's bowl. Dave smashes, they're only small amounts, but he leathers these. Maduri. It's like a green, like liqueur.
Watermelon.
Yeah, Dave did. Matches the Maduri.
Blue balls, Paul.
You ever heard of blue balls? B-O-L-S, blue balls.
Oh, yeah.
Dave crushes the blue balls. But Melvin, this is where it gets bad, okay? This is what I have the problem with. Melvin's a bit of an idiot. So, by this point, we're sort of like, mate, come on, can't do that to Dave. It's a cat. Back off. But no. Melvin has to be a clown. So Melvin reaches through into the garage. His garage door's unlocked, and he gets some petrol. And he pours a little bit of petrol into Dave's bowl. Oh, my God. Dave goes over to the bowl of petrol. Laps up quite, and then you suddenly, he's been on the hard liquor, but that's different gravy. Has a good chug of this petrol, and then suddenly it hits him, and he's like, you know when a cat really likes it. Boom! He's off. He shot up the wall, ran round the wall, dug his claws in, was boiling round the place, up the curtain, and then just keeled over. I can tell you what. Ridiculous, mate.
I love how Paul's face changed. Like when he got to the gasoline, like
that happened.
That's it.
That happened.
That's it.
That happened.
That was a joke.
I have to sat through this 2 times, man. Come on. Me and Ryan had to go.
No, that's just the kind of thing I have to deal with. I mean, for anybody out there who's into cats, don't worry about Dave. He didn't die. Just ran out of petrol.
He just killed over.
Yeah.
He just killed over.
He ran out of petrol.
Okay, that's horrible. That's horrible. I'm picturing a dead cat. I want to call animal services. Yeah.
Can't believe this is high level stuff. He did.
Okay, so
at what point I believe this was actually something you partook in.
No, I did not.
My opinion hasn't changed.
The film Don't with Cats.
Oh, yeah.
The Fix would just like to point out that
Dave is a fictional character and does not exist.
You're going to have people hunting down Melvin on the internet.
There is no Melvin. Ever existed, and this is an entirely fictional joke. But the cat ran out of petrol. Back to arm wrestling. That was the cat story, Sam. I hope it hasn't got me shot, but that was the cat story.
Thanks a lot, Sam. I'll never get those 10 minutes of my life back.
Never going to get them back.
Hey, I have one. I've been translating for weeks now. No. So, what was the name of the pig in Winnie Pooh? It was just a piggy, yeah, or something like that. Or just pig.
So we're taking it right. This is in no way real either. There is no pigs, actual pigs involved in this.
I don't know. I never know.
No pig.
Yeah. So
Brian's got a panini.
So Winnie and the pig are going through the forest. So Winnie looks up. He says, like, hey, there's bees. There must be honey. He's like, hey, pig, you go up there. You scared.
Hold on, wait. Can we start over? It's Winnie the Pooh, right?
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh.
We're talking.
Winnie.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Winnie. So Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
The pig's name was
Winnie.
Winnie. Okay, so Winnie looks at the pig and he says, like, so you go up, you scare the bees. Bees chase you. You run up the hill. There's trees. There's trees down there. Yeah, you just run through. There's a lake. You jump in the lake. You're safe. You come back. We eat the honey. He's like, solid plan. He goes up. He scares the bees. He runs up the hill. He runs down the hill. There's nothing there. He runs up the next hill. He runs down the hill. There's no lake there. He runs up the next one. He's tired. He just, like, crashes down. Bees sting him. He's lying there, like, everywhere, like, bee stings everywhere. He's crawling back. He finds Winnie the Pooh lying on the floor, like honey everywhere, and he's just, like, lying like this. And he's Big's like, there was no lake. He's like, shut up, Big. Can't you see I'm sick? Yeah, Neil. That's what's up.
What can I do?
If anybody watching the Fix has got any good joke books, do you want to give us some links on? Send those over because sadly lacking.
And just for clarity,
there was no Dave. Dave does not exist.
The pig. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh, 100%
Dave doesn't exist anymore.
Hey, you can Google Winnie the Pooh and find some pictures, yeah. Okay, let's get into arm wrestling.
Yeah, we got to get arm wrestling. I'm going from 27 down to 21, and we haven't started yet.
Be careful. Ryan Bowen. Here we go. Are you ready? Right, now I'm going to direct this to either Ray, because of his bachelor degree in the sport of arm wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. Or I'm going to direct this towards Ryan Bowen, because Ryan is probably the antichrist of this approach, I would think, really.
I'm intrigued now.
Yeah. So this guy is called Nick, and the question is as follows. I have a question. It's always a good start when you've got one. I realise that there's endless debate in this sport, but based on your history, I feel that you are the most qualified to answer this.
That's unfortunate, Nick, because I've passed it on.
Okay. Is traditional weightlifting necessary to achieve the top level in arm wrestling? And are you currently doing any? So I'm going to answer the first piece, and then I'm going to pass that over. Okay? First piece, are you currently doing any?
No.
Had it done. Ray.
So with conventional weightlifting, I guess I just like going to the gym, because weightlifting is weightlifting. We know what is weightlifting. conventional weightlifting will not help you in arm wrestling. First you need to make basics, like specific arm wrestling training with weights and everything else. It's a major part of the sport. There are some people who don't train, but these are the freaks, and these are exception to the rule. And there's not a lot of them. If you look at most champions in WAF, in slot, anything, most of them train with weights. Very low instances where they're not training with weights. They're just doing table practices. And these are like John Brzezinks of the sport. These are at some point Devon Larratt's of the sport. There's some guys like that. Most guys, I would even say 99% of results come from weight training, specific training. Like regular training will help you only if you're a strong dude. But at one point, how strong can you get with that? You need to catch up. And arm wrestlers train forearms more than anything else. This is why our forearms are bigger than anyone else. And if you don't do that and you just do conventional training, it will not help you that much. So you need to understand priorities. Like if your hand is losing, you can do that bicep curl as much as you want. It will not help you. So I would say conventional, no. Specific, hell yeah. But good background in any strength sport or something will give you something. Being strong helps. So
the application
very
of weights
helps.
in as near as you can get to an orthodox arm wrestling position. So if you had to give a couple of examples of the type of weightlifting or gym-based exercises that are going to assist this, I think it's fair to say you've got an acre of that on Voice of Arm Wrestling, haven't you, mate?
Yeah. Specific training, you can find everything. We have done so many. This is why we did the channel, to help with those kind of training for everyone around the world. You just need to look at those videos, look up. So gym training works. We know it works. Some people don't need it. And if someone tells you, there's very low, we all know that there's a very low number of guys who will say, you don't need gym training, you can just train on table and get everything. And you're like, but I'm still not world champion. He's like, you will get there. 20 years later, nothing changed, So gym training, table practice, we need all of that. And if any super strong, strongman from strongman world really comes to arm wrestling, is very dedicated on getting his grip up, to arm wrestling levels, not just holding stuff, but curling and stuff, and really understands the basic mechanics and start working on technique, they would be very high already on a heavyweight list because of the background. Being strong helps. It really helps. But understanding where to apply that pressure and everything else helps even more. So, Ryan, Antichrist.
Yeah, I've never done a day of traditional arm wrestling. I mean, traditional gym strength since I've been an arm wrestler. I honestly haven't. I've thrown in a rehabilitative sense, traditional vectors in, but I've always been very, very, very much about lasering in on identifying the most critical strength I need to win my next match. And sometimes that critical strength is the tiniest damn movement in the most obscure position of a ready go. So for me, I've always seen arm wrestling as a combat sport that requires strength. I look at it first and foremost as a combat sport. I do understand very much so that if you are simply too strong for your opponent, you don't need to have any combat knowledge at all. You can just be too strong. But as you climb the ladder of the arm wrestling ranks within the world, you need both. You flat out need both. You're not going to get to the top with just one or the other unless you are the ultra freak. Then you can get there with just strength. But given that we're mostly built from the same genetic potential, roughly, as humans in this sport, for me, identifying on the table by really thinking, when I arm wrestle, I grip my opponent and I download the data of what it felt like. Every arm wrestler out there feels different. So the more arm wrestlers you grip, the more data you have, the more nuances you know the more nuances you can take back to the gym and say, that's the little nuance that I want to get stronger on. So, it's identifying the nuances, then making them, those specific nuances strong. in a rehabilitative sense, right now, I do feel like getting some stronger shoulders is great for me right now because not because it will make me a better arm wrestler, but it will protect me from injury. That's basically it for me.
I think this is it's always going to be an engaging debate, this, isn't it? And I think in any case, and what we're trying to do, for everybody out there, what we're trying to do with the show here, guys, is give you a well-rounded, structured opinion as we possibly can. That's why we have Paul on the show. And
well-rounded, structured.
We basically are going to say the route that we think you guys should take in order to get the most gains. And that's applicable to the highest percentage of viewers or listeners possible. The reality of the situation is that in either camp you can find those legendary examples of that one person that didn't follow the path. You know what I mean? And it might be that I think there's probably more. I'm going to say there's probably more examples of people who attained a high level of arm wrestling from just arm wrestling. John Brasink is pretty much that. Cobra Rhodes was definitely that. Andreas Rundstrom was another one of those. And I know a couple of others. And for those people who are new to the sport and don't know those three individuals, I'm pretty sure probably everybody will know John. If you don't know about Andrew Rhodes, if you've heard of Cobra, that's the guy I'm talking about. Andreas Rundstrom, another unbelievably talented arm wrestler who never went into gyms, okay? Just trained on an arm wrestling table. So the answer to that question is you can become a world-class, elite-level arm wrestler from arm wrestling alone. On the other side of that same coin, you have other guys who, let's pick on Richard Lupkus, okay? I learned a lot about Richard recently when I went on to an in-depth interview with Richard, which you can see on the channel in the Deep Inside, the Minds of the Greatest Arm Wrestlers section. Richard told me during those series of interviews that he never trained on arm wrestling tables technically throughout his career. He just trained for general strength in a gym and went and competed in arm wrestling competitions. And yet, at the peak of that man's career, he was arguably, quite possibly, the strongest arm wrestler of all time. So there are definitely examples within either school of thought that you can achieve that. That's what I would say, mate. But the reality of the situation is that 99.9% of people in the population aren't that guy. They're not Richard Lupkus. And therefore, what we're going to try to do is give you the route that's most travelled and has been most successful for most people. And what you often find is that a guy will come into arm wrestling, get to a decent level of arm wrestling, and then he's going to supplement that, as Ray's described, by utilising certain training that are going to strengthen areas of weakness in his game or her game. And that's ordinarily what happens. Similarly, as he described again, and Ryan spoke about, you get guys who are rock strong. Lachlan Adair is a pretty good example. Came with a high strength pedigree. Paul would be another one. You know, very powerful individual. Came into the sport of arm wrestling at a higher level than he would have done because he was already extremely physically strong. It's a strength sport. It is a combat sport, but it's a strength sport. And there's no weak world champion arm wrestlers.
This is something that I could talk about forever. I don't have a bachelor's in arm wrestling, but I do. My 6 years education was in exercise physiology and kinesiology, so I understand the biomechanics of things and everything. And when you get a new guy, by the way, Neil, and I use this guy as an example. His name's John Anthony Fernandez. He said he friend requested you a couple times, Neil. He's mad at you for not accepting that. But he's come to practice, and I mean, really early on, you talked about guys who are like, they move like silk, right? This is John. He came in watching Devin videos and like first practice, and he is just fluid top rolling with he's a mechanic. He's got a good strong hand and wrist. Yeah. So everything here, and he's really clean. But what he's lacking is, you know, from that chain starting at the fingertips all the way back to the lat and shoulders, he is lacking everything past his elbow. So it's like one of those things where he may be the exception to the rule. He comes in with a high arm wrestling IQ and mobility, but yet he can be taken away from his shoulder. He can be lat dragged away. He can be side pressured. It's the large muscle groups that are behind in that chain. But I think if you look at it, it works the whole way down your arm. This is the most important. So if you're coming into the sport and you don't have this, but maybe you do come into the sport and you're turning a wrench every day and you have a crushing grip and a grizzled hand, you may need total body strength. So I think it does depend on, but like Neil's saying, a majority of people who walk into the sport, it's usually that first portion of the chain that's lacking. Yeah. But there are exceptions.
I love it, Paul. I agree. I use the term, you've got to backfill your strength all the time with my new guys. And it's exactly as you described. You have to backfill. And sometimes backfilling takes, for me, I feel like I'm still backfilling. I'm the guys that I hang with, I think I'm weaker in the shoulders than the guys that I hang with. But I'm still trying to backfill to catch up with people like yourself, Paul, and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting. I like to think of if Richard Lopke's had a twin who dedicated himself to arm wrestling, which twin wins?
I had that exact thought. I had that exact thought when Neil was explaining that. Because when you take Richard Lumpkins as an example, like Richard dedicated himself to strength training. And obviously he became ridiculously strong, huge, and shredded. So which means he had a really good genetic predisposition. And I remember the interviews you did with him, he was naturally strong from day one. So if you take that identical twin and say, hey, you know what? You're not going to the gym. You're just going to continue throwing your hay bales, but we're going to teach you to be like a proficient technical arm wrestler. I do feel like that human being probably beats the gym trained one. I hate saying that, but it's real.
Yeah, like he was a local strength legend. One of the main reasons I got into the sport of arm wrestling, because when I was a little kid, I used to knock around with my dad, and one of the things he'd do sometimes is take me to a little country pub down the road here for my lunch, and they had a pool table in there, and over the side of the pool tables, there's like a shrine to a guy called Bill Hunt. Okay. Now, Bill Hunt he was a hand balancer, max holding, old-time strength athlete, not a big man. Actually ended up meeting Bill when I was about, I don't know, between 7 and 9 years old, I would say. Because I was fascinated by this. I'd stand reading all these things about him. They had lots of things that he'd done, and he was weird stuff. Like one of the things that I remember used to appeal to me, this is going to sound far-fetched, I swear to God, this was on the wall, right? And this is not fable, he did this. The guy used to have a 6-foot ladder, just like a decorating ladder, like the V-shaped ladder, okay? He would climb up the ladder on his hands. Oh, and the ladder was stood on a table. Right, so the ladder is on a table. So he's got a table, and then on top of the table, this V-shaped like decorating ladder, and he'd climb up it on his hands in a handstand. Then he'd get on top of that ladder, and he'd be in a handstand on top of the ladder. And then he would just knock the ladder away and drop 6 feet into the handstand and hold it. Like an altitude jump type effect on his arms. Yeah. That's power.
Neil, I got to give a shout out. I don't know if any of you guys follow this guy on Instagram. There's a gentleman in my arm wrestling club. He's 53 years old. His name's Rudy Manure. Look up Rudy Manure on Instagram. He is a current living example of that. He posts daily videos of his workouts, and they are the most obscure things you'll ever see, and he does them to a level where you're like, hang on, how did you do that? And honestly, he socially arm wrestles, but I tell you what, wow, his hand and wrist is like, what the hell? Yeah, what the hell am I feeling here?
I have the utmost respect for those types of things, man. I see guys do so much stuff I could never dream doing.
But imagine you can cultivate some of them motherfuckers who've spent problem is they're usually that ingrained into one area that it's such a passion to them.
Yeah.
Rudy, that is hard.
Rudy was a gymnast and an entertainer, like a Cirque du Soleil style entertainer, all his life. Traveled the world, almost kind of freak show style. There, look, can't believe a human can do this kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
I want to clarify something. First of all, my bachelor's degree is made up. Latvia is not a real country. But
Don't discredit it.
Hey, come on.
And Dave was not real. There's no Dave.
Not anymore. No more Dave.
And Dave was real. But like, if we talk about freaks in arm wrestling, I think again 99.9% of those guys will have super strong hand, like well above average. That's their key into arm wrestling. If you have that strong hand, and everyone who always, like, I get so many guys asking me, like, my hand's weak, what should I do? Train. I lost competition to this, train. Giannis always makes fun of me because we walk through Zloty tour and someone comes up and he's like, oh, I'm a fan. I'm like, how did you do? He's like, I got 8th place. I'm like, train harder. But that's true. Train harder. If you go to practice and there's some good arm wrestlers and you take the hand and you already have the dominant hand, that's a big deal. So you already know where to build on. But every Liepins, John, everyone who we talked about, hand is the answer. You know, if Richard Liepins didn't have the hand he had, he wouldn't be there. He had the hand. John Brzenk, why he beat all those giants? The hand. So I think everyone's always looking at all these variations where they're not sucking. And I'm like, get your hand stronger. Yeah.
Do you guys know roughly what your wrist is capable? Like, for instance, 2 7/8 inch rolling handle, just with the wrist, I can wrist curl 55. That's as good as I can do. Where Lachlan does 65. On the same handle. Do you guys like to give the viewers a rough idea of what a hand is worth?
I use a wrist wrench predominantly when I'm trying to, like, cause I pyramid on that every week. So I have like a 2-inch wrist wrench with knurling that I can chalk up and hold on to pretty well. I think the best I turned was 135 pounds with that on a cable. So guys like Storm can do more than that, vastly more than that.
Mm.
Okay, I made a claim when I was younger. At my peak, I genuinely believed I had the strongest wrists on earth, which is like quite a claim, you know. But I genuinely did think I was thereabouts. Or it was more along the lines on, I wanted to find somebody who's stronger. I wanted to find somebody who could do what I could do, and I never did. That doesn't mean they couldn't, but I never found one. And I put it out far and wide. And when I told people, they literally laughed. They went like bullshit, like don't be silly. And I could curl, but I've got many people that came to the freak shop, trained with me, saw me do this, okay? I could curl two-handed, so this is in this position, what you call a bench curl. So basically over the end of a bench. So you get over the end of a weight bench, alright? So put your hand on a weight bench. We had a heavily constructive weight bench. Put your hand over the end of the bench, and your wrist just goes to, like, just past straight. So there, okay? And then curl fully up, and then back down to straight again, fully up, repetition movement. Okay, so on a scaffolding tube, basically we made a bar made out of scaffolding tube. It was a bar, just a standard heavyweight deadlift bar, high-rated deadlift bar with spin locks. And we just put a scaffolding tube over it, welded the scaffolding tube on top, and put bike grip on it, so like bicycle tape grip on it in different positions, okay? I could take that bar, load it with 300, my best ever was 304 kilos.
Yeah.
Okay? And on a pyramid, this is a thing, that wasn't just get on there cold, something's going to snap if you do that. And we used to call it Silly Sundays, okay? We used to train our wrists and hands on that day. And basically, I would start off with 100 kilos on the bar for as many reps as I could. And when I say I got a lot of reps, I'm talking I literally was over 100 repetitions with 100 kilos on wrist curls like this, okay? Then you would go to 120, and you would build up literally in 20 or 40 kilo increments. My best ever at that was 304 kilos for 25 reps.
Doesn't seem...
That's not a wild, rash claim that happened. And it didn't happen once. I got to the level where I could do that. And the problem with it was, what I found, I actually think that it may have damaged me.
That's what I was about to say. Did that have any detrimental effect?
Looking back, mate, I think it may have ended my career, if I'm honest. Right. I know that at the time, this sounds far-fetched again, but I'm not kidding. when I could perform the function, and when I did it, when I stood up, I felt my bones hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like actual bones.
Because of all the pressure, it's disposition on your bones.
It was like almost like, you you see the Roadrunner films and Wile E. Coyote when it's something and it's like, ding, ding. It was like that. I'd finish the exercise, and then as I stood up, you'd get that, and I thought, God.
Yeah, that's why I love cables, and that's what I've gone away from. I went through a season where I loved holding static weight, and I went heavy. I was thinking I was awesome, but you start to get bone pain and joint pain, and you go, cables are much nicer.
In that situation, it got so heavy, I had 5 guys in the gym.
Loading it up.
5 guys to lift the frigging bar into position. You try and lift 300 kilos into position for someone.
That's where
5 lads.
I think that we almost collectively as arm wrestlers have done a little bit of a disservice to new arm wrestlers and fans, because there are certain lifts out there, which I'm guilty of as well, that are just Facebook for show. And everyone's seen the Devon Larratt 87 kilo dumbbell curl. Everyone goes and tries to do some form of it, or a table curl that's way too heavy, and they're just hurting themselves. Yeah.
The irony is, Ryan, back in then, there was no Facebook, was no social media. Yeah. I was doing it because I'd read, I had various books, Power, and it was basically along the principle of heavy weights make you strong.
Yeah.
Well, it's not going that way. The problem is, mate,
certainly
if I have my kids now, I'm training them.
I was discrediting that. Have we lost Neil?
No.
Sorry, mate.
No.
I was just going to say, if you did see that, I was just going to say, if when I'm training my kids to arm wrestle, I trained anybody else to arm wrestle, I would never, knowing what I know now, advocate going that heavy. No.
Right. That's what Ryan just said. Is a great point, and it ties into what Ray said. And it's spot on. Like, Ray and I probably spent, the better part of our lives involved in learning about and applying strength, philosophies. But in reality, strength training, it metamorphosizes with fads and things like that. And there's always something new. And everybody seems to be looking for some magic pill. Like, all right, what is this specific thing that you need to do? That is
one exercise. Give me one exercise.
Yeah, give me the secret. Exercise. Now. I get DMs all the time. What is the secret? There's no secret, right? It's really, really simple. If you have a logical, structured program, like I'm doing one from Lock and Dare right now, and if it's logical and it's structured in any way, shape, or form, especially early on in your arm wrestling career, follow what you're doing and just do it harder. Yeah. Just train harder. It's such a simple thing. Ray said, just train harder. Guys, there's nothing magic. There's a few things that you can add in here or there. But if you're not getting the results that you want, go harder or go longer. All right. And then add to and then metamorphosize and change your program as you learn your weaknesses.
And the other thing is, sorry, go Ryan.
I was going to say, I love Ray's sign off to every video. Stay strong and love arm wrestling. Is that what you say, Ray? Yeah. To me, if you love arm wrestling, you will become strong in the right areas. It's pretty simple. If you are consistent and you train, as Paul said, with a well-designed, regimented program, it's inevitable. Really
Ray actually made a beautifully concise point last night on his interview. Not to so steal thunder from that, because it's a really excellent interview. But one of the things Ray said, which I thought was wonderfully put, he said, as humans, we are at our best when we've got something to focus on. Okay. Yeah. And what Paul just talked about there is pretty much that. If you're on a program, half of the battle in any sport, in getting into the ascendancy in any sport, is seeing continuous gains and keeping your motivation throughout the period of time that takes. And in arm wrestling, like all sports, to get to elite level is a marathon, not a sprint. There's an investment of time. If you can keep those two elements married, so you've got that investment of time and motivation at the same level, it's a great thing. And you will then enjoy your arm wrestling, and you'll enjoy your journey through arm wrestling. Sometimes chasing those massive weights is a bit ridiculous. When I was a kid, I look back at that. Now you get to a situation where I think 300 kilos, number one, it was ridiculous. It serves no purpose. People look back and they think, okay, you could wrist curl more than you can deadlift. Well, it's ridiculous. But why? You don't need to be that strong. You're strong enough. Nobody can hold 300 kilos anyway. So what the f*** are you doing?
Right.
And it doesn't translate. You know what I mean? It's translatable strength that you should be looking for. If I was training someone now, I'm going for practical, tangible benefit. Where you're going to see it in a match. Where does that come in? Where's it going to actually be applicable? That's the key. If you want a key, build your strengths and find applicable.
So I want to talk about the hand. Like Ryan asked, simple question, like how strong is your hand? So, like this is not one element. This is many elements. So to be good at arm wrestling, first you need, and like I'm not gonna say which is priority one, but I feel this is the less priority, dynamic finger flexion, because your fingers will be flexed, but you need that power to carve in stronger. So, and I'm not gonna talk about so the hand is doing a lot of things. It's not just flexion and extension. It's also radial ulnar deviation up and down, as well as pronation and supination. But when we talk about the hand, like these will, like turning in, out, up, down, these will supplement the power that you do here. So the wrist, so when we do wrist curls on a straight bench, the max tension is when it's at like straight away from basically parallel to the floor. So everything, I cannot show it like this. So my wrist is like this. It's straight. Imagine it's straight to the ground. And when I'm flexing it up, the tension goes away. So the tension goes away. Max tension is here. There's no tension here. So to do just benches on table, classical, sense, I will be just working on my starting position and a little bit up. Nothing more, because then the weight is already falling inside me, basically. It goes away. This is why you felt so much pressure on your bones. So this position we can train here. Train top position. When the arm is flexed, max tension here, we need a decline bench. Yeah. So you supplement that with decline bench. Then you do exercises like Ryan said on a cable system. This hits more together. Your fingers are already in static position. It adds tension through your hand and your fingers. When you did the barbell, it doesn't add that tension on your grip. You don't need it. So it goes like this. When you use wrist wrench, there's full tension whenever you go. So usually you will use wrist wrench or winding handle. It will be the less weights you're moving. You take any other handle, you can do more, because like the full tension. And then you supplement with pronation, supination, up and down, and these are super important. And together you create that stronger hand. Like, it took me years to understand all of this. And when I got there, like new guys come in, they get there much faster than we did. Because I'm not giving them exercises like in one plane where it doesn't build something else. So here you do this. When you do the single arm deadlifts like we did, it's attention on another plane. And in arm wrestling, I feel like to understand how good you are, you cannot measure from wrist curls like this, from like decline, from straight, from lifting with wrist. You need it total and average. And that's your number. That's what I really believe. Because it all comes together. How can you use it? And again, fingers. Like how good your fingers are in arm wrestling position. This is arm wrestling position where my knuckles are either same height as my finger knuckles right here or a little bit lower. This is not arm wrestling position. And guys are testing themselves here, and they like, but when we start the match, I cannot feel anything because you're not used to being here. And it's, again, arm wrestling is simple, but it's not. It's really not. And if you have good system, I believe Lachlan has good system, we have good system, and we look at those things and we work with you to create best version of you. And when I grip up with someone, I can usually tell what they need. If like, their fingers are slipping out, or the finger's holding good, but the wrist is giving up. Okay, so we need to work on that wrist in this particular plane or vector. V for Vector.
Yeah. So I just need to give the heads up. I'm at 4%, so I probably got like 5.
For one, not as bad as mine, but terrible. You're just going to leave it. And Ryan's got 1% on his phone. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to say a big thank you to the resident hosts, Ray, Rolly Royce, in front of a green screen. If you want to get good training advice, get over to thevoiceofarmwrestling.com, ladies and gentlemen. Lethal Arms Apparel, if you need any shirts like the one you can see in between the flex. And last but not least, it's now called Ryan Bowen. Used to be Pound for Pound. And this is where you can see more from Ryan Blue Bowen, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, this is your first time here on the Supernatural Strength channel. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell everybody about it, ladies and gents, and we will see you soon. Until that's...